All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wealth Edit Wednesday. We are so excited about having Something Borrowed Blooms with us today. So we have Lauren Bercier and I'm like Laken Swan. I remember, it's funny, I know Lauren and Laken, but I'm like, but last names.
Last name, yeah.
Last names. I'm so used to chatting it up. But anyway, so excited that y'all are here. It looks like Krista's really excited y'all are here. Krista's like our best PR person. She finds all the great people that we need to meet. And excited just to have some ladies out of Louisiana too. So anyway, I just want y'all to start off today and tell us a little bit about yourselves and Something Borrowed Blooms, which I think the idea of the online silk flowers rental business is like genius. And I cannot wait to hear more about how y'all came up with it and what your business is looking like these days.
Yeah, so thanks for having us on. We're excited to be here. So I'm Lauren and this is Laken, and we're the co-founders of Something Borrowed Blooms. So Something Borrowed Blooms specializes in rent and return wedding flowers. So we use premium silk flowers to build out wedding flower collections and rent them out to couples for the weekend of their wedding, saving them about 70% or more compared to a traditional florist. So we're helping couples all over the US and Canada save thousands of dollars in their wedding budget by renting their wedding flowers. So if you want to compare it to something, it's pretty much like Rent the Runway, but for your wedding flowers. So that's what we've been doing over the last few years. And it's been exciting just to kind of grow the idea, grow the company, and doing it together. It's been awesome.
Yeah. So we started this about 6 years ago now, and we were really inspired by Rent the Runway. And Lauren and I both wanted to kind of introduce that concept to a market or an industry that wasn't really using the rent and return kind of sustainability angle. And then also an industry where, an item was fully invested into, but maybe only used for a short period of time. So it was at that point that it was obvious that weddings was, definitely a perfect fit because, there's so much expense associated with just a few hours on the wedding day. And there's, some aspects of the wedding that, couples are really excited to invest into, and then others that might be, not as important on their list, but still really run up the overall budget. So we, decided that weddings was the perfect opportunity to kind of provide couples with an alternative and, just ways to save on the overall wedding budget.
Oh, I love that. And one question I have, just because I have a mother who loves artificial flowers. Like she always has an artificial orchid, but she's really good about finding the ones that like legitimately look real. And that is from all the reviews on everything that I've seen about y'all. I mean, these flowers, you almost like need to get in there and touch them to figure out like that they're not real. How did you source that? Because that's hard to find.
Yeah, so it's taken us a few years. We've definitely gotten better at sourcing. But yeah, we select the high quality premium silk florals for all of our collections. We go to market a couple times a year and we'll spend days picking out 12 to 15 stems for a new collection. So it's just, taking the time, connections, just kind of like the knowledge that we've gained over the years about like what's going to withhold our needs for shipping and, reusing them over and over again. So yeah, I mean, the quality, color, all the things, and then the overall design is something that we really spend a lot of time on.
Exactly. Being really intentional about finding the silk flowers that most closely mimic like what you would find in nature, right? So within the artificial flower space, there's a lot of crazy things that happen that are kind of like outside of, what you would normally find. So we're very intentional in, finding things that mimic, fresh flowers, which helps to ensure that, the artificial bouquets look lifelike. And then also we have a very talented team of fresh floral designers that have a fresh background. So they're using those fresh flower techniques in order to design and create these really beautiful arrangements that, to your point, at times can be hard for the eye to tell, are they fresh or are they silk?
Yeah. Okay, so you have a team of designers that are putting together these bouquets. Can brides like make their own bouquet, or are they picking from a menu of options?
Yeah, so that was something that we knew really early on. We had to stick to just offering a set, line of collections. We wouldn't be able to offer customization or anything like that in order for our business model to really, grow and scale, which was hard at first because you get all these requests and you just wanted to make a sale. So it's hard to say no, but we had to stick true to this original concept. So we have 16 collections to choose from, and each collection has a full line of products, everything from bridal bouquets, bridesmaids bouquets, boutonnieres, corsages, centerpieces, flower girl balls, hair pieces, like you name it, we have it, garlands. And then we also have decor. So they have to choose from the offerings that we have, but they are able to mix and match, and there is no package or minimum. So we really feel it's important for brides to have full, control and empowerment over like what she wants to order for her wedding day. So she can order a bridal bouquet from one collection, a centerpiece from another, to kind of like pull in different colors and just make sure it's exactly what she needs for her day.
Oh, that's so exciting. And so they just arrive, they're shipped in the week before? Is that?
Yeah, they get delivered 3 days prior. So it's a really nice process. The packaging is really beautiful. We have a floral scented paper on top. So when the bride opens the box, it smells like real flowers.
Yeah.
So we get feedback that like, my mom cried when we opened the box, So the whole experience is really, really cool. So.
I love that. And I mean, flowers are such a big part of the wedding, and so much, so much about the bride. And I just I know that with flowers, one of the things that sometimes like we were actually just doing this with a large party that I was helping host with, there's this, like they're only going to last for this short period of time. It feels like a waste, but like to take that burden off and just to be able to enjoy and not worry about who's gonna, if it's gonna turn out the way you want it and all that. So I love that idea. Okay, so the two of y'all, what I love about y'all's partnership too is that you're family.
Yep.
And so y'all talk about, figuring out like, okay, the only way that we can really scale this business is to like figure out, what works for us and then sticking with that business model. So what was that process like? I mean, did either of you have business backgrounds before you started Something Borrowed Blooms?
Yeah, so I went to UL Lafayette. I received a degree in marketing and immediately went to work for Caesars Entertainment. So I spent the first 10 years of my career there working in event management and promotions, but then later really focused on marketing strategy, where I oversaw all the marketing and growth efforts for their casinos in the Louisiana and Mississippi region. So that really did give me like a good background in kind of developing out a strategy, like, seeing through growth strategies, et cetera. But, talking about, finding the right partners and pairing with, someone that balances you out. Lauren, so Lauren and I are first cousins. That's our relationship. So obviously we've been knowing each other forever, but yeah, so Lauren, in the background that she was able to bring in, actually I'll let you speak to kind of what you had on your side and then kind of how we came together and how, our partnership just works perfectly together.
Yeah, so my original degree is in public relations. So I did PR for a few years, both nonprofit, for-profit. I always knew, I don't know if I've even shared this with you recently, but like I've always known that like I wanted to be like spokesperson or like the face of like a company or a brand. And so I feel like it's like finally like come to fruition. It's even more exciting that it's like our company that we get to do that for.
Yeah.
But that was like my original background. And then my husband actually is a serial entrepreneur and has been involved in a gamut full of different types of businesses. And so I was always really involved with that. So entrepreneurship is very much part of like our life and our conversations. And I think that really planted the seed for me to like want to start something. And Laken and I would talk about it. And like the inside joke was like, if Colin can do this and be successful, then we can do this too. Yeah. So we would laugh. And then, so I think that's kind of like the seed that was planted, like we wanted to start something together.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, in the early days, Lauren really had the time, the bandwidth, and the passion to really like, get through like all the really hard days. And, like I would help contribute to like overall strategy and here's what the brand's gonna look like, et cetera. And, we were both contributing, very different pieces. Our end goal was the same. For me personally, like I would not be here today if I didn't have the right partner, because, where I was at, I was, kind of held in, you know, an area that didn't allow me to, you know, explore things like entrepreneurship and take that big risk. And Lauren helped me to be able to do that. So, you know, finding the right partner is sometimes like the most important ingredient to success.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more. I wish Lauren was here today. And just for those of you that are on the call, Lauren's been in California this week at a conference about learning about women in giving. So I'm super excited for her to come back and share about what she's learned. But two things that y'all said that I just think are like so congruent with what we believe at The Welt, that at first is like that entrepreneurial mindset and how you pick it up from those around you. I mean, oftentimes it's just like having your ear open to hearing what other people are doing and then thinking to you. And I know your husband is probably extremely talented and not, but like, you know, sometimes you're like, if they can do it, I can do it too. And that's,
absolutely,
you know, and I think that as women, like we need to hear those stories. And it's just like, well, I'm so excited y'all are here today. Somebody can listen, hear, you know, no, you know, both of y'all were not in the perfect place at that time, but one of you was ready to take that and then get it to the point where then Laken, you can come in and, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like everybody's got to quit their job and stop their life. And, you know, but it can, you know, be one of those things that evolves over time into the right fit. And the second thing is just like having a partner, having an ear, somebody you can talk to and like that can bear the burdens, because as Lauren and I said, I mean, we're so thankful for one another, but as many women that even that we've talked that are on the call today, we've talked about like building a business can be extremely lonely because it does take up so much of your time and you just need to talk about it all the time. And all of a sudden you're like, I know, like, these people don't even know what I'm doing during my day. Then there's no way to really explain it. So
I know when you try to like share, like it, you don't get it unless you're in it. Like you there's no like, you know,
that is very true. Like,
yeah,
very true.
Okay, so to shift the conversation a little bit, and one thing I'm excited about y'all sharing today is talking about when to take outside funding, because I know that y'all have been very successful in raising outside funding. And I would love to just like start off with sort of what led you to that first round. And now I don't even know how many rounds y'all have had. Have y'all had two rounds? Yeah.
2.5. Yeah.
2.5. Okay. So I'd love to like hear a little bit about the thought process that went into that, because Lauren and I, like having one Alabama Launchpad, that has been a really interesting thing that's developed for us is just, you know, like sometimes you see like when you start beginning to have some success, all of a sudden you begin being inundated with questions about that. And sometimes it's the right time and sometimes it's not. And I don't feel like people talk about that enough. So I'd love to hear about your experience.
Yeah. So, you know, our story, I think, is a little different than most startups because we spent several years really like growing the company organically on our own. You know, Laken and I each put up a couple $1,000s to get the company started. And then pretty quickly, the company, we were able to fund the growth through like just the profits from the business. But I think it was probably about 2017 is when we started seeing some traction, like good enough to feel like, okay, this is viable, the market's, you know, there. And so that's when we originally decided to take, like to explore an angel round. So we were connected with some local angel investors, started having those conversations, and we took on our first round of outside funding in 2018. And that was like from a group of angel investors here. And I think at that point, it was really because we were seeing so clearly how like our like ad spend or whatever it would be was so reactive. So if we just had more fuel to throw on the fire, we could grow even quicker. And at that time, like I said, we were growing, but it was, you know, slowly and very controlled because we didn't have like the capital just to like really blow it up. So the thought was to like, let's see if we have some more capital, if we can really, you know, enhance the growth and get, you know, to our goals even quicker. So we did that initial angel round. And then what was it?
That was 2 years. We ran the business with the angel funding and grew it there.
Yeah.
And then as we were starting out 2020, we were preparing for a VC round, and then COVID came along and surprised.
And the wedding industry, who wants to invest in the wedding industry?
Right, in the whole world. So at that point, you know, we decided, you know what, this isn't the right time for us to fundraise. Let's explore some other options. We focused on, you know, just kind of sustaining the business and also growing it during COVID.
Yeah, but we did like pull levers back to make sure like cash flow would be stable enough to, you know, withstand the COVID challenges. And then we knew that the VC round was coming, but we needed some cash to like kind of get us to that point. So we decided to do a convertible note. And so what that did was it allowed us to, you know, raise the money pretty quickly, again, mostly from local investors at like favorable terms for them, knowing that it would convert to equity once our VC round closed. And so that was really crucial and really like getting us through the most dire months of COVID.
Yeah. And then I think too, that allowed us to like really step back and kind of decide, what are we looking for in a VC partner? Like what do we need, right? Like what, like outside of just cash, kind of, you know, what would our ideal partner look like? And instead of raising in a position of like, you know, despair, right? Like we had, you know, some breathing room, and we're really able to be strategic in choosing a VC partner, and, you know, throughout the whole fundraising process.
Yeah, and honestly, the timing, I think it's really important to make sure like you're raising at a time that you're really on a high. Like the timing worked out perfectly for us. Like what was it? March, April, May is when COVID started, we started rebounding from COVID. So our month-over-month growth rates were like sky high. So it allowed us to raise at a higher valuation because we could prove that, you know,
our business was rebounding, right?
And so then we were able to base like the forward-looking months on those growth rates, which if we would have raised 2 months earlier, our valuation could have been like cut in half. I mean, that's like the difference it could have made. So again, like just making sure you're in a position where you can withstand to get to a point where, you know, you're raising the most favorable terms is super important. But again, I just wanted to like back up a little bit about raising in general. I think that, you know, the reason why we decided to even pursue outside capital after a few years when we saw the traction and the growth and the, like the scalability possibilities, that was a whole lot of abilities. Anyway, we decided that, you know, we knew that there was a lot of potential for this company, and we didn't want to stay like just like a lifestyle brand or a lifestyle business, which is totally fine. That's a great path, and you can make a lot of money like with a lifestyle business. But we really saw an acquisition as our, you know, future roadmap, and that was the goal. So knowing that, it makes sense to raise capital because at this point you're like in a race, you know, it's almost like you're racing to be the forefront, the leader. So that way, if someone does get acquired, you're the one that looks, you know, the most desirable. Because of course there's going to be copycats and there's going to be people kind of coming on your heels. And if you're not well funded, you're not going to be able to like lead that charge. And so just knowing where your end goal is. If your end goal is acquisition or IPO or anything like that, then like VC is definitely where you want to be. If it's not, and you want to stay like, you know, lifestyle, you're going to run it, you're going to make your salary off of it, and you're going to do this for the next 25, 30 years, then VC is not where you know, should be thinking.
And that's an important part because, you know, you think, I mean, I know that like before even I began building the wealth that question would seem rather simple. I mean, you know, like, of course you would know like where it was, but it's not always that simple because oftentimes businesses are born out of a passion or, you know, this desire to create something that's very specific to like who you are and, you know, what you want to give back. And then all of a sudden you're building something and you're like, well, do I want to give it up? I mean, you know, like, is this something you want to build and sell? I mean, because you put so much heart and effort into it, or is this something I want to like clip a coupon from, you know, for the next 25 years? And that's a real question that entrepreneurs really have to like muddle through. And especially like in a partnership, were y'all ever at odds, or have y'all always been of same mind as far as like goals and where you want to go?
I think we're pretty aligned for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, and that makes it so much easier. And Another thing that you said that I'd love for you to kind of go back and touch on a little bit is like where you said like you're in it, you didn't say this word exactly, but it sounds like y'all were in a place where you were really getting traction with your product and like ready to scale. In the past, how did y'all find like the right product market fit? I mean, what was that process like for y'all? Did y'all have to try different models? You know, like you said, you realized early on that you couldn't do custom bouquets for every bride that wanted to do it. Was that something that fell into place rather easily?
It did, honestly. So our initial kind of, you know, overall like product and delivery of that product and overall experience was pretty closely aligned to like where we are today. You know, it was really through the first year that, you know, we kind of made minor tweaks here and there. And of course we continue to make tweaks over time. But, you know, through that first year, the feedback that we received, the experience that we gained through just the logistics and whatnot, really confirmed pieces of the business that at one time might have felt, I don't know, less important, but like after we put into practice, we realized, you know, certain components of the product or offer or the functionality, we learned the real importance of, you know, the actual value to the customer or the value to, you know, our overall, you know, margins or whatnot. So I think we got lucky in that our first iteration was very close to like what we have today, but it was definitely, you know, trial and error and, you know, small tweaks and adjustments along the way.
And I think it's that, and like then just obviously like continuing to like optimize. So like like Laken said, the initial like, you know, like model is what we're really close to how we started, but like we've gone through so many series of like websites and web developments and different, you know, features on the website like that. And that's constant, like that's every day, like figuring out both front end and back end. So like the product of like, you know, renting wedding flowers hasn't really swayed much from like how we first thought it would. But I think like the product, like the tech product is what's really evolved, and that's helped us to scale. I think early on, we saw that we would have to invest in the technology in order for us to scale, because we would have stayed on like Shopify or one of these platforms that's like, you know, a little more like
out of the box.
Right. We wouldn't be able to scale because our business is so different. It's not straight e-com. We had to have like all these, you know, other, you know, needs. And so I think that, you know, that's really what's been reiterated over and over and continues to be.
Yeah, we do realize that. I mean, even with the wealth that it, you know, we launched in 2019 and we just launched our second website already. And you know, what you do is, it's interesting, like as your business, as you grow and you get a clearer vision of like who you are, what is really resonating. Like Lauren and I always say, we really thought that everybody was going to love the written content of the Wealth Edit when we started. Like we just saw like everybody's going to come to the website and want to read all the articles and the blogs and stuff like that. And that's not the case at all. I mean, occasionally somebody, if they have like a pain point and need an answer, it's nice to have like a library of information to go to. But for the most part, you know, people really come and crave and love the community of the Wealth Edit, you know, and they love the interviews and they love hearing other women's stories, however we like want to disseminate that. And we realized that that's how women learn. But again, you know, so as a result, we've had to tweak that. Again, it's part of like our original business plan, but it has definitely we've shifted things that like are priorities, and it's interesting to see how that evolves over time. Okay, so tell us what is next for Something Borrowed Blooms, because I just can't wait to hear that y'all just seem like you have it all tidied up and ready to launch even more.
It seems like that.
It does.
We forgot to talk about this.
So our most, I guess, like exciting, like new thing to come, or most, you know, recent would be we're expanding our warehouse operations, which is going to have a huge impact on just overall productivity and the volume of orders that we're going to be able to get out during any period of time. So we're expanding on a 10,000
extra 10,000
square feet. And we're hoping that that will be finished by the end of October.
Mid-October.
So that's really exciting and, for our entire team, but that expansion will allow us to, triple our current volumes. So we'll be working aggressively to max out that space too.
And have y'all seen like weddings just like, I guess so many have been put off and have like flooded the market recently. Have y'all seen a change in the types of weddings that people are having as a result of COVID and now kind of coming back?
Yeah, it's a mix. It always really is a mix. We're doing about 800 weddings a month right now. So this is our peak season for sure. So this is, an exciting time for us just because it's busy wedding season. But yeah, it's definitely a mix. We've actually been seeing like bigger wedding orders. Like that's kind of been the trend. Bigger pieces. I think people are just ready to have the celebrations that they've been waiting to have. So,
and I love that because if you're saving that much on florals, you can, instead of having to have like a small amount of live flowers, you can kind of make a bigger splash.
The decor and all the stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Okay. And also just one other question I have is the team. When I look at your team on your website, how many are they all women or are they, how many do you have on your team?
Yeah. So that website picture is old.
That's a page that needs to be updated.
It looks like a fun time.
We currently have about 25 people on staff and we are all women. So it's everybody from the production team, the, fulfillment team, social media, customer service, communications, tech, creative, all the fun things. So, but yeah, it's about 25 of us and they're all amazing. We have a really, really great team.
Oh, well, I cannot wait to continue to watch y'all and what you're building. I just think it's so neat. I recently was listening to a podcast and somebody said that it was actually talking about teenagers and about how, conformity is king in the teen world. Everybody wants to be like everybody else. And she was saying that like really the people that change the world are the innovators, and like if we could only get our teens to see that like being different is like actually like your superpower. And I just love that because I think I look at y'all and like just you're innovating the market. You're looking at something and you're making changes and like I love that.
Yeah, no, thanks. That feedback's great because that's something that's really important to us too. Like from day one, we were set out to like revolutionize a stagnant industry. Like that was really important to us. We didn't want to do anything that anybody else is already doing. We really wanted to change the industry. So we feel like we are, changing the wedding flower industry. We're modernizing the way couples plan and pay for wedding flowers, which I think it's really amazing. So
yes, I can see it. And I'm so thankful for y'all. All right. Krista has asked a question of what's your least favorite job responsibility? I'll go first. HR.
Ditto.
Yeah,
agreed.
It is hard. It's hard to create that.
It is. Yeah.
The right team.
And look, just the recruiting process and hiring employees, especially, we took on a round of funding. So it was critical for us to build out, a management team, right? And there are times where just recruiting and interviewing and selecting candidates feels like a full-time job. It is so hard. It is so hard. But yeah. Also very rewarding because we've been lucky to find some really great help at all levels, which helps us all succeed.
Yeah. But yes, definitely
difficult.
Okay. So here's the question that we end on all our Wealth Edit podcasts is just like, why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit? Or why do you think it's important that women talk about money?
Well, I'll tell you, like for me, talking about the VC funding was really important right now. Just a stat that is staggering is that out of all VC funding in the US, only 2.3% of it go to women-founded businesses. And it's a stat that obviously needs a lot of attention and it needs a lot of overhaul. It needs to change. There's so many amazing women founded companies that aren't getting the funding that they need. And so like you were saying earlier, like about like, you know, kind of being around it and seeing it, like if you can't see it, you can't be it. So I think it's our mission right now to like show other women that VC funding is available. You know, you have to work for it and go out there, but we need to change that. We need to shift that, you know, so that way more women have access to capital that they need. So for me, that was like a really motivating factor in coming on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't say that any better. But yeah, I mean, definitely just women talking about, you know, their goals and their aspirations are just like so important. And, you know, to be able to share that with the community, you know, what you might be sharing as a struggle or a goal could also be inspiration for another person and, you know, be a defining moment in their path. So it's, you know, special to be a part of that. So thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. And I know like when we talked earlier this week, y'all both said that y'all would be willing to talk to anybody. So if anybody's listening to the podcast and want to get in touch with Lauren and Laken, maybe y'all can tell us just a little bit, tell everybody how they can find you online. And then, you know, again, if anybody ever wants to talk to y'all and can't find your email, they can email us at The Wealth Edit and we'll get you in touch. So where do we go to find Something Borrowed Blooms?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to the website, which is somethingborrowedblooms.com. We're also on social media at SB Blooms on Instagram. And then my email is Lauren at SB Blooms, and Laken's is Laken at SB Blooms. So you can find us easily that way. Yeah, we'd love to happy to help. Yeah, if you have any questions, we're here and we'd be happy to help.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm so thankful that we finally got you here. Thank you, Krista, for the wonderful introduction. And I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.